Hi everybody, I'm JR the Traveling Tech Guy. I wanted to follow up with my previous video over the FAA's new proposed rules over remote ID. So if you are new to this channel and you want to learn more about the RC hobby and other tech related stuff, please consider subscribing. Click on the bell to be notified when a new video is released. From my last video, I received numerous comments and emails telling me that I was wrong and how these rules would in fact end all flying fields and the hobby as we know it. So in this video, I'm going to address the challenges flying fields face going forward and the opportunities that could exist. First and foremost, these are just proposed rules and are not law. Whatever the final law will be is still yet to be decided, and we still have anywhere from 3 to 5 years from the effective date before any law is enforced. This will give manufacturers and hobbyists time to become compliant. So I'm not quite ready to jump on the doomsday bandwagon just yet and say that this is the end of our hobby. I keep an optimistic outlook that there will be provisions in the law that will allow flying sites like ours to remain open and recognized, as well as new technology that will allow us to retrofit our older aircraft in order to be compliant. Looking at the currently written proposed rules concerning flying sites specifically, here's how it reads. If you fly with no remote ID, you will only be able to fly at FAA recognized identification areas or FAA. All CBOs will have to submit an application to the FAA to be established as a FAA within 120 days of the effective date of the new law. If you try on the 121st day, your application is going to be denied. The registration period is good for 48 calendar months. All CBOs will have to renew their application 120 calendar days before the expiration date of the registration. If you fail to do so, your registration will automatically be canceled, and the fate of your flying site will be at the hands of the administrator to decide on whether to grant your request or not. In the event you want to or have to change the point of contact or change the CBO's affiliation with FAA, you'll have 10 calendar days to amend your application. So if you want to change your geographic boundaries of your FAA, you will have to submit a request to the FAA and wait to see if the changes are approved or denied. In the event your CBO decides to terminate its designation as a FAA, you cannot reestablish your CBO as a FAA. The FAA would also be able to terminate a CBO's RIA if it poses a risk to aviation safety, public safety, national security, is no longer part of a CBO recognized by the administrator, or that the person who submitted the request for establishment provided false or misleading information during the submission process. And once a site has been terminated by the FAA, the CBO cannot reapply to have that site reestablished. The CBO can, however, petition the FAA for reconsideration and establish the grounds for such reconsideration within 30 calendar days of the date of the issuance of the termination. But there's no guarantees you're going to win. Now, in order to get approved as a FAA, the FAA will take into consideration the existing or contemplated airspace capacity, critical infrastructure, existing or proposed man-made objects, natural objects, or the existing use of the land within or close to the proposed FAA, the safe and efficient use of airspace by other aircraft, and the safety and security of persons and property on the ground. So if your flying site is an area that could be remotely deemed as a risk, your request is going to be denied. It's estimated that 90% of all current AMA flying sites will be recognized as a FAA right off the bat. 10% of these flying sites will be denied registration due to various reasons, like close proximity to airports, existing flight paths, desired flight paths, or any site that could be perceived as a risk to safety and security. Why are all these changes happening? The answer is twofold. One is money. Large companies wanting to deliver their packages via drones want our airspace without us getting in the way. The other, we have a segment within our community that fly their drones recklessly in a manner that is way overhyped by the mainstream media to the point of complete hysteria towards drones. If you compare how many drones there are currently in the U.S. versus the number of incidents where a drone is flown into a controlled airspace, came in contact with an aircraft or even impeded emergency services, you would see that that number is extremely small. Unfortunately, the FAA doesn't distinguish our model airplanes from any other unmanned aircraft. To the FAA, they are all UAS or unmanned aircraft systems, and all are treated the same. Even though drone pilots and traditional RC pilots seem like they're at the opposite ends of the spectrum, if these proposed rules as they're currently written become law, will affect us equally. Once the rules are finalized and made into law, what will the future hold for traditional model aircraft and flying sites? According to the FAA, there will come a day where designated flying fields will become irrelevant as remote ID becomes the norm. While this could mean the end of flying fields as we currently know it, this could also open a new door of opportunity for our hobby and flying sites. If your aircraft is equipped with standard remote ID technology, you may have more choices of where you can fly. You just won't be stuck flying at a designated flying field. You could literally pick a large open field and fly. I suspect companies like Futaba, Spectrum, FlySky, and others will come up with innovative ways of incorporating the remote ID technology into their transmitters and receivers. We already have telemetry, GPS, and modules to convert to different communication protocols, so why couldn't remote ID technology be added as well? Think of it this way. You have a receiver that has a unique serial number that transmits that number along with the required longitude, latitude, and altitude back to the transmitter, then in turn have the transmitter broadcast that signal in real time as well as through the internet via Wi-Fi or an app on your smartphone. Then our current planes would be in compliance with the rules. There are a lot of unanswered questions that are not being addressed in the proposed rules. Like, what about the rural areas? Or areas where internet and cell service just aren't available? Also, if a flying site isn't designated as a FRIA, isn't in any existing or desired flight path, imposes no threat to safety or security, can we still fly at those sites? One other thing, if there won't be any designated flying sites, will the AMA still be relevant? If the AMA is no longer needed in the eyes of the FAA, who would look out for our best interest? We know the government won't. That's why we need your help and the help of your friends and family to let the FAA know how much of a detrimental impact these rules would have on the hobby. I'll post a link to leave your comments with the FAA in the description below. Since no one really knows what the final rules will actually be, and these are just proposed rules at the moment, so I'm not going to buy into the hype and say that the hobby is completely dead or dying until it actually happens. Our hobby has always faced challenges ever since the beginning of RC flight. Each time the hobby has risen up and overcame the challenge. This time it will be no different. We may have a battle ahead of us, but in the end, our hobby will survive. If you found this video to be informative and you liked it, please click on the thumbs up to let me know. Till next time.